Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence in video gaming, and we have Jimmy with us again. Hi, Jimmy.
Well, hello.
Yeah. So, I guess like the topic, and I kind of mentioned this before the video. Emotional intelligence is kind of related to social emotional learning. And I just want to say, as a side note, I know currently right now there's a lot of debate on social emotional learning. For the purpose of this video, I'm not talking about anything related to current events, such as like gender identity or certain ideologies. We're just talking about like basic, fundamental ideas of what social emotional learning is. Yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there. As an overview, basically, you talk about like IQ, right? Like how
Hmm.
high is your IQ? They also have like EQ, although sometimes research will refer to it as EI, like emotional intelligence. But
I hear a lot of people when they're very hyperactive around me. They often say, "Oh, but I have such a low EQ." And
I feel like that's a Chinese thing. Like I talked to,
oh, you've heard it as well.
yeah, actually, I didn't know what EQ was until I moved to China.
Mm.
And
Yeah, I wondered whether that was related here.
yeah, well, like eventually, so I was in China, and then I started getting my degree in psychology, right? So
Hmm.
then I started learning about it more in psychology. But before that, people would say like their EQ stuff. I have no idea what that is, and I don't think they know what it is either,
Yeah, I
because
think it's just like we would use, "Oh, I'm a ADHD or something,"
yeah,
before being tested to see
yeah,
if you are. I think that's how they use it. Oh, I didn't know. Okay, good.
yeah. Well, so also though, like EQ is it's like your ability to understand your own emotions, the emotions
Mm.
of others, and being able to regulate your emotions. Whereas like a lot of people here will say they have high EQ and then they will like blow up at someone, which is like that's kind of
Mm.
indicative of low EQ. Not necessarily because maybe you were pushed past a certain point, but normally high EQ people would say like this is a situation that's too stressful for me. I need to back off and calm down and then come back.
Oh, it's like a emotional awareness.
Yeah, it's like being aware of your own emotions, being aware of things that like make you feel certain emotions, just like we talked about earlier, like why do you feel that way? Why are you angry? What's making you angry? How can you resolve your anger? Those are forms of emotional intelligence. But it's not even just that because like we use emotional intelligence in day-to-day things. Like for example, when you have a problem at work and you're solving a problem, that's kind
Yes.
of connected to emotional intelligence.
Problem solving skills.
Yeah, so like, you talked about like the Montessori program. Um,
Oh, we're allowed to bring that up.
I mean, yeah. But like, if you were to address, like, let's say you had to, you did not want to do it, and you had to find
Mhm.
a way to say it to your boss. That's a form of
Mm.
emotional intelligence, right? Like, you're figuring out what's the best way for me to navigate this situation.
Yeah, okay, I got you. Yeah.
So, the reason I say that is because I think a lot of people view that as like being an intelligent person, like having high IQ. But
Mm.
actually, from the stuff I've read, people with high IQ tend to have low EQ, and they tend to have really poor people skills.
Yeah, you do see that like with the super geniuses. They don't
Yeah,
know how to interact with other humans.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so like that also means like certain like social problems they can't navigate well.
Mm.
Yeah. I just say that because people talk about being smart, but like emotional intelligence, I guess you could also equate it to a type of smartness. It's just not
Mm.
like necessarily book smart per se, although it can have connections to it.
It's just the modern buzz phrase that we use here.
Yeah.
When
So
you're stressed, instead of saying, "I'm so stressed," you go, "Oh, I have a low EQ."
yeah. um, so I would say it's specifically related to like self development, self regulation, and managing emotions. And it can actually also be like regulating others' emotions, which I know people will say like that's bad, but what it means is like your ability to navigate how someone else feels and to help like de escalate emotions or help
It's a
people.
bit like empathy.
Yeah. Like imagine we have a kid in class who's crying. We would be able to approach them and help them work through that emotion rather than like making it worse or just avoiding it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I would say like good teachers have some level of emotional intelligence, you know?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, like your ability to kind of see children and like how they're feeling and understanding it and then like help them work through it.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why when you do like when we first started doing online classes, it's a little difficult, especially if they don't put the camera on. You can't see them, so you can't interpret their
Yeah,
feelings.
yeah.
You know, the text, if they write text or they just speak, you can't always interpret the meaning. You
Hmm.
know, so yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
It's also related to leadership skills. And I mean, I mentioned it, but like problem solving or like ability to find solutions. And then obviously it's related to personal relationships because again, it's kind of like it's your ability to be aware of how to navigate those things. But it can even be down to like understanding your own motivations and the motivations of others. So I say all this because when we say, think of emotional intelligence, you just think of like, oh, I know why I cry, or I know I'm angry, but it's also like I know why I want to do something, or
Mm.
I understand someone's intent behind what they're attempting to do, kind of thing. And then you mentioned empathy, which can also kind of be like your ability to tolerate and respect differences. That's emotional intelligence. And then like your ability to listen attentively,
Mm.
which I think a lot of people don't have. I think a lot of people really struggle, especially with the inventions of cell phones and TikTok. People really struggle with like listening to what people have to say.
I was gonna say that, but then I didn't want to sound too old.
It's true though. Even adults, like I've seen children and adults where they don't really hear what someone else is saying.
Yeah, I noticed that so many people around me, like they're not even listening to their phones, or they're not even listening to the people. They're not aware of the environment,
Hmm.
and I mean, I quite like my phone, but so I don't want to blame it for everything. But I think anything, used to an extreme can be either positive or negative. Any
Yeah.
tool can be a weapon, you
Hmm.
know. And so any medicine could be a poison, I think, was in
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed.
You also said that in the last video you were in.
I see, I remember stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
or I have a limited vocabulary. I have a low EQ.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've noticed that, and yeah, in my class, I have there are some kids who like to just play with each other, play with toys, play stuff, and then there's this one boy, all he does at home is watch Ultraman.
Hmm.
And as a teacher, we hate Ultraman, by the way.
Why?
Because the kids just go around the room and
Oh yeah, like
go. That
Power
was it.
Rangers. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 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 that's it. And but I've noticed that this kid, he has very limited skills in like the fine motor skills or the gross motor skills. He can't kick a ball, you know.
Hmm.
Like
How old is he?
four.
Yeah, it's kind of old to not be able to do that.
Yeah, they can't use their feet independent. He falls over a lot.
Hmm.
He all he can do is like the Ultraman poses. I'm being careful
Hmm.
because my screen shows all my dirty background. Okay. Um, but yeah, and we had this sports day event, and we have to throw a ball, like a tennis ball. No,
Hmm.
it was actually a small football like
Okay.
this, and we you throw the ball and you're supposed to catch it.
Hmm.
And this was the original plan. We would just they would throw balls back and forth and catch them.
Yeah.
It's a little hard for most of them, to be honest,
Yeah,
but
it is.
he would be like, "I'm ready." And then you throw the ball and it goes past him and then he reacts
Yeah.
because I don't know, mate, I think because they sit and watch, they get lost in just watching. They get so used to being told everything
Hmm.
that they actually don't experience anything anymore.
Yeah.
Trying to bring it back
Yeah.
to your topic.
No, but but it does feel like that, right? Like the
Yeah,
students are kind of just like everything is spoon fed to them.
yeah.
They don't have to
Oh,
seek entertainment. They don't have to seek knowledge. They don't have to seek anything. It's given to them.
yeah, when I was a kid, I remember like we were always being told, "Oh, the TV is going to ruin your brain," like to sit there watch TV is a terrible thing. But we went out and played outside. Because TV was only limited, like
Hmm.
there wasn't 24 hours kid channels in those
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would have watched it for 24 hours. It just sits still. It's just, and I can't do it. But I think
Yeah.
if you're conditioned to just sit there, and this thing will tell you everything you need to know.
Mm.
And going back to when we or did online classes, the early online classes, the kids were so shocked the TV is talking to me. It's asking me questions. You know,
Yeah.
they were really shocked that like it wants me to do. It said I did a good job, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think it is a cause a problem. Our attention, they're designed to get your attention, but I think it's affecting the global attention, not just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I would say so too. I wanted to talk about in the overview what the impact is of emotional intelligence. It has a positive impact on work attitude.
Hmm.
So people who have high EQ, even if they like have a job that's like stressful or maybe it's not entirely a job they want to do, they still try their best to make the best out of a bad situation.
Be the
Uh,
best version of you,
yeah.
as long
And
as
so,
you know you're doing the job well.
yeah. And so like it positive influences things like work commitment, work ethic endorsement, career commitment, effective organizational commitment, kind of like the I guess you could say like the emotional atmosphere of the work environment. And whether or not they stay at the organization and then how involved they are with their job. Those are all
Mm.
things that kind of influences.
So would this imply like if you are we leveling it as a high emotional intelligence?
Yeah.
If you have that, you could probably be the person that comes to a bad workplace and sort of like says, well, actually, it's not that bad. If you guys, we just do this and we do
Hmm.
that, and then everything put it back in order. Would that be like the higher?
I think yes, but I think it also depends, because like I've been in situations in China where it's like they've told me even in interviews they're not doing well, but the second you step in to say like, well, if you did it this way, it could have this type of potential outcome. They don't want to hear any of it.
I
So it's
wasn't
like,
really meaning in China because they like things that done the way it's always done, whether it's failing or not. I
yeah.
just meant in general, like so I've had situations for myself where something, maybe you join a group or something, and it's just
Mm.
like these things are just not. It's just not chilling, it's just not flowing well. And then there's one person that just comes in and just goes, well, how about we just turn it this way? And then things start to improve, it changes the direction. Those type of people are the
Yeah,
ones with the higher
I would say so,
emotion.
especially since that's kind of like a leadership type role, right? Like you come in and
Yeah.
you're trying to like, and you're doing it for the benefit of the group, not for your benefit, right? That
Yes.
would be like a high emotional intelligence
So
person.
higher emotional intelligence are the people that would work from our teaching point of view would be the student focused teachers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. As I mentioned, so high emotional intelligence, those people tend to be more committed to their careers.
Mm.
And then also EQ or high emotional intelligence actually boosts like social and academic accomplishments and development. So there's research showing a connection between having high EQ or like emotional intelligence skills and students doing better on tests or students getting like better results or having better outcomes for their studies. So then like how do games play a role in all this? Because I know we're talking about video games.
Yeah, we should get to games.
Yeah. So if you think about like games they have to be well designed. You can't just use any game for like helping, I guess, train or like teach emotional intelligence or emotional intelligence skills. But if it's like well designed game that has like problem solving or mimics like real life scenarios, so if it's like a situation that could happen in your life,
Mm.
and then you work through that in the game, it can be helpful for you if that situation happens in real life because now you've developed skills for how to manage it.
Yep. Yep.
Like imagine you played a game like Betrayal, right? Like there's a betrayal in the game. And maybe it's a character
Ah,
you like fall in love with in the game and they betray you and it hurts. Like it doesn't hurt the same as real life, but it still might be like, oh man, like I really like that character and I wanted them to be this part of my game and now they're not anymore. Right? So it's
yeah,
like,
but you get to experience that emotion, that feeling,
yeah.
and then when it happens in real life, you can kind of like, oh, this is how I dealt with it in the fantasy world.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this is
But the thing is, like, probably will happen. Like most of us have had our heart broken at one point in time through some type of betrayal, either with friends or family or even like a lover, right? Like it happens. You're gonna have to deal with some type of betrayal sometime in your life.
this rem this your talk here just reminds me of I was reading or studying a little while ago about this woman. They were talking about like you're learning from non-fiction books,
Mm.
and she made this case. It's like, well, you can still learn from fiction books.
Mm.
They're not all lies. It's not just
Yeah.
It's not AI generated yet.
Yeah.
It's not all complete gibberish.
Yeah.
But, like the author would have spent months researching stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like, so if you're reading a book about life in the coal mines, the majority of that is actually going to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the romantic story is fake, but
Yeah.
the actual how life is like in the coal mine or whatever it is, you're learning about life in a coal mine.
Yeah.
And so that fits with your idea here. Like you can learn some emotional skills from playing games.
Yeah. I even have like I love murder mystery books, and the
Mm,
authors usually have to do research on that as well.
yeah,
You know,
have to
because
kill several people.
yeah, right. But like, you know how
I
like
originally thought you were going to say I love murder.
no, no. But even things like, you know, when you think about like shooting someone with a gun, there's a book where this happens, and like you don't think about it, but like she gets hit with shrapnel because she's too
Hmm.
close to the person she's shooting.
Yeah,
But in
yeah.
movies, it's never like that, right? It's just like point blank range, like
No.
I'm so cool, bang. You know, people don't
And they turn the
realize.
gun sideways in the movies,
Yeah,
don't
they're
they?
like, this is not proper care and handling of a gun. Like you're gonna misfire and hit yourself. You know. If the games are like well designed, they can feel really authentic to students, and then that makes it personal. And if it's personal, you're definitely going to be more invested in it.
I played Knights of the Old Republic many, many years ago. I think when it
Mm.
was new, before the second one came out. And I remember like you play through it, you're trying really hard to be a good Jedi. Because you can be Jedi or Sith. And you're just trying very hard to be good character. Maybe that's
Mm.
just my character. And you get to the end or get near the end, and then the story is completely flipped on its head, and you're just like, I didn't see that coming. And that emotion that stuck with me is like it's like when you read a really good book,
Yeah,
and
there's like a twist.
and it's a story twist. I don't want to give things away.
Star Wars game, right?
Yeah, it's very old though. It's a bit slow now. It's like RGB. Yeah, that's the one, right? Role play game.
RPG.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Why do you get me to talk about games? I don't game.
You game enough. You game more than most people I know.
Really? Wow, that's
Yeah.
you've got a sad life. Okay.
Well, I feel like no one in my family games. No one. My brother
My mother
plays.
games. My mother games all the
Really?
time. She
Really?
plays Fallout 4. She's a hardcore gamer.
That's kind of cool. My parents
She
know.
starts telling me stuff. Oh, like if I want to use Fallout 4, for example, I downloaded that once. That looks just like Tenjin, by the way. Um, it's so the same. Anyway, and I was trying to do something. She said, "Oh, you know what you want to do? You want to go over here, go collect that thing, come back, and then you'll have a better gun, and you'll be able to do it." How do you? My mother is considered she's considered disabled, so she doesn't work. So her way of dealing with pain is to sit down and game. It takes her mind off it because watching
Yeah.
TV doesn't work. So
Yeah.
she has to actually do something.
Hmm. Well, they're engaging, and so then like it's easy. Even if you feel pain, it like dulls it a little bit.
It does, though. I mean, she still feels the pain, but
Yeah.
it's to take her mind off. Because I think once you start getting the pain, you start thinking that hurts. And then you go, yeah, that really does hurt, doesn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And then and you get caught in that loop. So
Hmm.
she games a lot to take her mind off it.
Yeah.
And when my mother games, she always has a notepad as well. So she writes down everything. I know modern games, you don't need to worry about this. But
Yeah.
when I,
Oh, you mean to like sit to like load the game and stuff?
no, no, she will literally write notes on everything she meets in the game and everybody.
Oh.
Like nowadays, modern games all save it in the thing. Like, oh, the password to this place
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
Red Diamond. She
yeah.
write password to that is Red Diamond, and but like modern old games, you used to have to memorize it, and
Yeah.
because it wasn't encoded into
And
your
if you
your
forgot, you had to
inventory.
go back and find that person.
Yeah, and you have to go back and find them. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. So she will use her brain, like written skills as well as thinking. So it's good. Gaming. I'm a big fan of games for helping people, as a positive.
Yeah.
It's and so I think that's probably why you asked me to do this with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. EQ is related to self-regulated learning. which means like learners use cognitive or like metacognitive or affective processes to monitor their understanding. One type of emotional intelligent behavior is help seeking, which you do in video games. So like if you don't know how to solve an issue, you might look for another peer in the community, a friend you're playing with, or even a character in the game to help you understand what you're doing. You know, so that's like, it might feel like a weak connection, but it is still a connection. And then another one too is like you do navigate emotions through a story. And I know I talk about Baldur's Gate 3 all the time, but the thing I love about that is you can, so for example, if you're doing a playthrough, you can choose to be like, I want my character to be morally aligned with good. So like every choice I make, I will only make the choice that benefits, like I'm helping others.
Yeah, so that's like the Star Wars game.
And you
You
can do
could
the other
choose
one.
to be
Yeah.
only good or only bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you
Sorry,
can
I
even,
interrupted you.
it's okay. You can even have like a neutral option in Baldur's Gate 3, you know? So it's like you don't really get involved. You're just a passive observer, which also has different types of outcomes. But it's still at the same time, it's like, I've tried doing the evil run. It's hard. I feel like I can't,
Yeah, because everyone's against you,
and
right?
I feel guilty. I feel like a bad person if I try to be evil, you know? Because some of the
Yeah,
choices
especially
are
when
really
someone's
evil.
nice to you and you just say, "Well, I don't care."
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
basing it
yeah.
on the Star Wars games. Sorry, I've never played Baldur's Gate
Yeah.
3.
But you can manipulate people in the game where you like lie to them where you're going to help them, and then when you get down to it, you don't. You betray them. And it feels awful. But like, it still is kind of working toward understanding emotions,
But
right?
then you're learning from that as well, right?
Yeah.
You're learning. This is part of the emotional learning here. Is like you're learning a lot. Or if I do that, then I'm going to feel this way. So it might
Yeah.
stop you from doing that in the future if you're a kid.
Or if you're somebody who's like, maybe you just have you're inclined to be evil, then I suppose it teaches you how to manipulate.
Well, there is that. Yeah. Again, it's back to the tool and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like
the.
it does teach you like, oh man, like doing this to people doesn't feel good for me either, you know?
Mm.
And then imagine doing it to somebody you actually like know in real life. It's not a game anymore. Like this person knows me and you do that to them where you manipulate or you lie to them.
Yeah. And back to the betrayal thing again. So like maybe you have an NPC that's one of the characters you work with and is a big partner, and then all of a sudden it turns out they're the one that did everything. You know,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
the
like they're
betrayal.
behind the whole thing.
They're the behind the
Yeah.
whole thing. They're trying to kill you.
In Baldur's Gate, you can betray. I didn't know this. I look up spoilers. I'm not going to tell anyone because I don't want to spoil it. But there's a character in her
That's why I
story.
didn't say the end of Star Wars
Yeah,
because it's old, but who knows? Someone may want to play it.
their story arc is pretty. She has a lot of changes in her arc, but at the end, you can choose to betray her. And I watched it, and I almost cried. And I don't even play with that character in my party, but it's just like knowing the character and knowing her background and knowing everything that happened and like the betrayal. I was just like, oh man, like if you want to do an evil playthrough, that's what you do. But I don't want to do that. I can't.
And some people would find that funny, wouldn't
Yeah, they would. They would. And then the thing is, though, I feel like people who enjoy that, like who they probably have lower EQ. Or
they? Yeah, I
maybe I
wonder.
should say they have high EQ in the fact that they can identify these types of things, but they are unable to regulate their emotions. And so they're
Yes.
this type of playthrough where they enjoy it is they're taking out their own emotional frustration on the game.
Yeah, I guess that really depends on the definition of our emotional intelligence. If it's, knowing right from wrong, or whether it's just being aware.
It's kind of a mixture, right? Like if you, because I think some people with they can like detect emotions well, but then when you're manipulative, it's kind of like you don't really understand how to regulate emotions, right? Like you're doing this to harm someone else, and like no one. I mean, like if that person finds out, for example, that you are the one that manipulated them or you lied to them, they're gonna have a negative like view on you, and most people don't like that. Most people don't want to be viewed
Yeah.
negatively.
Yeah, it's the socialized thing of it, isn't it? That we're afraid of being tarnished, like, or
Yeah,
branded
yeah.
with that thought, like, oh, if I get caught doing this, then everyone's gonna know. They
I
probably don't, but you
Yeah,
feel that way.
well, I used to have this. We'll call him an acquaintance. We were never really friends, I guess, but he would continuously sleep with people who were dating someone else, and not like he would do it within a friend circle. So he would like multiple cheating with multiple different partners within the circle. So then like everyone knew then, right? Like every single
Hmm.
person knew that he would do this. And then he would say like I just feel like drama follows me. And it's like you are the drama. You are the problem. And then he would have to
Yeah.
change friends groups and then he would start over again. You know?
I've seen this. I've seen this pattern, like there is someone they do stuff and then they go, but why does this always happen to me?
Yeah, it's
I find myself thinking that too. Like, when something goes wrong, not the same situation as yours, but like, maybe I'm always end up doing something. So why do I always end up having to do this task? And then you think, how did I cause this?
yeah. Like
Because
I
you
must
have
have
to
been doing
think about
something.
it's
Yeah.
because you're like you have to be aware that if it keeps happening, then I must be doing it. Like no matter where
Yeah.
I go, this is always following me. It
Yeah.
can't follow me, you
There,
know?
I don't know what this is from. I think it's from a movie, but somebody turned it into a meme, and it's this woman in a spaceship, and she's like, "If there's nothing wrong with me, then there must be something wrong with the universe." It's the whole universe that's doing this. It's not me.
That's from The Simpsons, isn't there? Something similar to that. It's like, am I out of touch? No, it's the children who are out of touch.
Yeah, it's like that kind of feeling. So with help-seeking behavior, like we mentioned in the game, that's something like it involves things like identifying a problem, recognizing the need for help, actively looking or soliciting for the knowledge you need to accomplish a task, and that requires like cognitive and social competencies, which those are all related to emotional intelligence, and that's why we say it's pretty strongly connected to video games. And then students who have these like help-seeking preferences tend to do better on achievement things like tests or grades. They're better at like I'm not sure if I understand this, so I'm gonna continuously seek for an answer or like for help on how to do this.
Yeah, I think it's from reading that first article at least. I think like the skill they came away from is they've learned how to find the answer,
Yeah.
to be aware that they don't know, and then to like, well, I found the answer here before. Let's have a look to here again. To know
Mm-hmm.
how to find the answer
Mm-hmm.
seems to be the children, in this case study there, it seems to be the students that benefited most were the ones that learned how to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah. And I this is one of the reasons I actually like teaching children over older, like adult college age, because I feel like once they get past, I would say even like third grade, once they get past like third or fourth grade, they kind of get this like, especially if they're used to the teacher always telling them the answer, they just expect it. And when you like, and
Mm,
I'm in college or in university, I will tell them like, I want you to do this assignment. They'll all say, I don't know how. I know you don't know how. Figure it out. Like
mm. They
I'm
must hate you.
they do a little bit, but I said like the thing is I know you know how to do this if you just put your brains together, because it's like these are all skills that you can already do. You've never done it in
Mhm.
this way. And I even gave them an example. I said if I'm outside and it's freezing out, and somebody takes a bucket of water and pours it on me, what should I do? And they all said, well, you need to get warm. How do you know that? Have you had that happen to you? No. Well, how do you know that then? You're taking information using things you already know. Water in the cold is bad. You will freeze, right? Like you're taking different pieces of information and saying like, well, obviously the best solution would be to get warm. It's the same thing. Like I don't need
Yeah.
to tell you how to do this assignment.
Yeah, I have two things on this. We used to teach a class. I can't remember what the point of the class was, but it was like literally you have a, oh, what should I? Oh, it was giving advice. That was it. We used to teach a class on giving advice. And so we had these cards that had problems on it. The English was quite bad to start with, but the actual watching the children solve the problems was cool.
Hmm.
And we would have cards that was like trod in dog poo, bird pooed on me, missed the bus. Uh,
Why were there
yeah,
two poo ones?
there's
Pooed your pants, like just.
there were like 20, but I only ever used the two poo ones because they were funny and they made the kids think,
Yeah,
because kids
yeah,
like that, and they like that sort of stuff.
yeah,
There was a miss the bus, your shoelace is broken, stuff, all these little. And there's lots of funny images on the cards. But the idea is one kid would say, I have a problem. They'd pick a card and they go, oh, I trod in dog poo. And they go, I trod in dog poo.
yeah.
And then the other kid would go, oh, you should change your shoe. And then another kid would go, no, you should wipe it on the grass. Ah, another kid, there's always a stupid one, you should throw it in the hedge.
Oh yeah.
That's like, but it's like they're thinking how to solve the problem.
Hmm.
And like miss the bus. What should you do if you miss the bus? Well, catch the next one. But what? You wait for the bus? Okay, cool. Run after the bus. They all had these different answers. And another thing, your point there just triggered it, was when I started teaching, I learned quite early on that the students were being fed the information by our local teacher.
Yeah.
So you'd ask a question, it's this, and then local teachers say, it's an apple. And the kids are like, apple.
Mm.
I think you would have experienced that. You were around
Yeah,
at
and
that time.
I hate that.
Yeah, I used to hate that. And then I realized that, okay, so we were doing like some phonics lesson or some sort of letter learning lesson anyway. And I was asking them like, okay, so you know this A, what words begin with A? And I showed them around the room. Like, okay, look, this word on this one says apple. I mean, I don't remember it's apple. It's always apple when you teach here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so it's apple. And then we were there, oh, look, there's an alligator. And the word underneath starts with the A. And then it was like, like showing them around the classroom and stuff. And then later on, you'd show them another letter. Oh, what words begin with the letter C? And then they start looking. Oh,
Yeah.
and so it's like teaching them where to find the information.
Hmm.
And so I think that's part of this game thing here is
Yeah.
like that you start learning that, oh, if I want to know something, I need to look in the book. I need to ask these people. I need to go read that.
Hmm.
And so that was my point is like I learned quite early on that I needed to teach the babies, the young kids, that the answers don't always come from the Coty.
Mm.
You need to learn to find them first.
Yeah.
And so I would find myself holding the card that was the question, hiding it from the Coty so they couldn't see it, so they
Yeah.
wouldn't give the answer too fast.
I also feel like too, in my experience, like the co-teacher or even sometimes the parents, kind of like it's like they don't let kids be curious. And
No, they don't.
if a kid says something wrong, like let's say like when I was teaching kids, they were like 3 and 4. We're talking about rainbows,
Hmm.
and I had asked them like, I mean, we have to speak in Chinese at this point because they don't speak English, but where do rainbows come from? Kids are gonna say crazy things, and of course they're not gonna know the answer. Why would they?
Unicorn vomit.
But yeah, well, they'll say things like magic or like I saw a TV show where this like a fairy like waved her wand and a rainbow came out. Is that where they come from? Like, and I would say like maybe I don't know. Let's look together. Let's figure it out together. Rather
Yeah.
than saying like no, it's when like light hits drops of moisture in the atmosphere and then it like reflects. Like that's I'd rather show them like let's do an in-class experiment. Let's do something where we can like make a simulated rainbow. Or like let's bring prisms and like shine light through it and like, oh look, this prism has a rainbow, this one doesn't. Why do you think that is? What's going on? Does the shape have something to do with it? Does the color have something to do with it? Like these types of like almost like scientific inquiry.
I need to write this down. I have a STEM class coming up. I like the idea of trying to make a rainbow.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of different types of like, especially like kindergarten type simulated experiments you can do.
Yeah, I like trying to teach them how to find the information.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the example. But a lot of the modern classrooms are designed to look good in the photos and not to be practical.
Yeah.
I really don't like this modern photo culture we've got here. I don't know whether it's the same everywhere, but we're constantly having to have photos and take videos of all the kids. And a lot of the teaching is dying. So we'll have to reshoot, do a take two. Oh, can you
Yeah.
say that again? Because they weren't filming. And
Yeah.
but I like to demonstrate, I want the kids to be able to explore the classroom to find the answer. If we're teaching something like, oh, there was a book and like, what can I see? What can you see? And also, I see a chair or something. Okay, can you see a chair? And then they
Mm.
just point at the chair. No, can you find a chair in the classroom?
Mm.
That one works because I have chairs in the classroom, but we used to have paintings of flowers and stuff. And, like, oh, can you find some purple flowers or something? Like,
Mm.
what color are flowers? And then they
Yeah.
can look around the room and it's like, oh, they're purple there, red there,
Mm-hmm.
green.
Yeah, I used to like doing that kind of like experiment stuff with kids. I think like, well, one, a lot of them are not motivated because I'm teaching students whose majors are not English, so they do not care. It's just a
Yeah,
class they have to take. I
it's a
feel like with
problem.
kids, it's so easy to get them interested in what you're doing. If you make it
Yeah.
fun, music, dancing, games, like if you put some type of interest into it, they're going to be involved.
you also have to make it fun for you as well. And if it's fun for you, it's fun for the kids as well
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. But I feel like as a university teacher, and it's fun for me, it's not fun for them.
No.
Like,
Just go to school dressed as a pirate. They'll all be going, "Are you going to the pirates class?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's
yeah.
really cool."
Yeah. Have like treasure hidden throughout the room. You gotta find it. They'd be like,
The
what?
chocolate coins hidden in.
Yeah. They'd probably think I was crazy, lost my marbles.
Have you read the book Teach Like a Pirate? He needs to do
No,
that.
no.
There's a book called Teach Like a Pirate, and that's how he got like get the kids entertainment. You dress as a pirate and do different things. But I think he teaches not university students.
I thought about doing, like way back in the day, like I don't know, like 1400s, 1500s, maybe a
Hmm.
little later than this, but like the way men would dress, that like frilly type of like,
Oh
I
yeah,
thought
the
about
ruff.
yeah, it's I thought about wearing this kind of stuff because I know people here would be like, that's unprofessional, but like, I'll have you know, sir, this is like from the Duke himself, like just like silly stuff like that, but.
There was a joke in the Blackadder TV series once when the guy got a new ruff, a very big one, and
Mm.
he says, "How do I look?" And the other guy says, "You look like a bird who's just swallowed a plate."
Yeah, like one of those cartoon things. So, I will say the last thing about how it's related to games. So students that have like help-seeking preferences,
Hmm.
in the real world application would be like they are more strategic in how they approach dealing with a problem and how they approach like navigating how to talk to and who to talk to and what to say. One of our studies mentioned this. I forgot to say it was like Aristotle said something like emotional intelligence is like I think something like why you're angry, who you're angry at, and to what degree. It was like, very specific. But I kind of put this in the thing as street smarts because I think if you ask my brother, he thinks street smarts is your ability to fight. Whereas,
I
like,
think a lot of people do.
yeah, but I would say street smarts is your ability to navigate a problem and avoid escalating it.
I think well, at least when I was growing up, when we're English people, we would say, "Oh, he's street smart," or he's like that. It kind of means you're a wheeler dealer. You know how to
Mm,
manipulate people. You know how to talk with people. You know how to get the job done. You know
mm,
the people to talk to. Oh, you got a broken car? I know how to do it. I got street smarts. I know a
mm.
guy.
But the thing is those are kind of related to emotional intelligence, right? Like you're
Yeah, that's
using
more
your
nearer to your one
connections.
than the fighting one, isn't it? I
Yeah,
realized that as I was saying it.
yeah. But that's the thing though, right? Like you navigate those situations well. Like my entire family always say, Seth, you don't have
Yes.
street smarts. They always say I'm book smart but not street smart. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you
I
guys.
love this phrase. Yeah.
I live in a foreign country. I've lived here by myself for 8 years, and I've done quite well for myself. I don't know. I've had plenty of problems. I've had issues where I've had one time I had a taxi driver who tried to
Not smart
scam
on the
us.
street, you see.
Well, yeah, but he was trying to scam us, and he was trying to charge a lot of money
What's
to
this intention?
yeah. So
Yeah.
Yinko
We call them
Dao.
con men in cars. Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Inko Dao, right? That
Yeah, Kodal. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we were going from there over to Haiguangsi, which is only a few subway stops away. And then when you drive, it really isn't that far, maybe 10 minutes. And it
It's
was
not, but
4
they always
a.m. or
take you around.
yeah, it was like 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning because we just got down at KTV. So it's like no one's out, you know. And we even asked him like 3 times before we left, what will the cost be? And then we get there, and it was supposed to be like 20 kwai, and he tried charging us 100.
Yeah, and then those green taxis, they have a very bad reputation here right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
We call them con men in cars.
Yeah, well, so I mean, my brother's response would be to fight. Well, if you fight, you're gonna have the police called you. You're gonna go to jail and get deported.
Yeah, that doesn't work here.
My response was, I'll pay you the money that's on your meter, and then like if there's a tax, I suppose, and I'll pay you the agreed upon price, which is 20 kwai. But if you want to call the police, do it
Yeah,
because I
they
know
don't want to
they don't
because
want to.
yeah.
He's bluffing. But that I have to be able to read his. I can read that he's bluffing.
Yeah, and you learn quite quickly here that this is your street smarts thing. When you learn quite quickly here, when you get in the taxi and you say, "Can you take me here?" They want to know if you know the way,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so they ask you, "So, this direction, is it the one over there or the one over that way?"
Mm,
And I remember that I was I got so fed up with these taxi drivers once, and I got in a car, and he was like, "Oh, so is it straight that way? Oh, you don't know the way?" And I just got out the car and left. He was, "No, I know the way. I know what the way." And I was like, "Nah, you've instantly told me you're a con man. I'm not interested. Those
Yeah.
guys are so bad." I used to prefer to take the bus, which take me an hour for a 30
Mm-hmm.
minute, like,
Mm-hmm.
take double the distance, but at
Well,
least
it's
the
a
bus
lot
takes you.
cheaper.
Yeah, and they take the same route.
Yeah, yeah, they're not gonna get off track. Well, also too, like now that they have like Didi and Cao Cao and I guess Uber, but I don't know if people use Uber that much here.
I think Uber's almost pretty much gone here.
Yeah, but like the fact that you have the route and you can even select the route before you
Yeah,
know, and if they go off the
Didi,
route, you can report it.
but a lot of the taxi drivers now use Didi. They are Didi drivers.
Oh yeah,
But
but
the other,
on the
the
app,
the
what?
this, the other one, I can't say
Cao
that one
Cao.
because when I say it, I always use the wrong tones to say that word, and
Mm,
you're not supposed to say that.
I think it's Cao Cao. Is it Cao
Yeah,
Cao? I think it's Cao
it
Cao.
sounds like that. It's
Yeah,
CAOCAO.
yeah.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. And that one's actually really good. A
Mm-hmm.
little pricier, but
Yeah.
their drivers drive nice. It's a
Usually,
nice
yeah.
ride.
Although
It's a
one time
nice
in
ride.
Beijing, we had a very scary experience with this. The driver, it was a Cao Cao driver, and we were just almost home, and a car cut him off.
Mhm.
And his response to that was like he floored it and got right up to the guy's bumper and was just like beeping the horn. And we're like, please, sir, like, can you just wait for us to get out before you do this?
So did you evaluate his emotional intelligence at that point and say,
No.
well, how are you feeling? And what level are you feeling it?
Yeah. Let's work through this problem. Study one is called Understanding Optimal Problem Solving in a Digital Game, the Interplay of Learner Attributes and Learning Behavior. And that's by Xu et al. So there's a number of authors. I'm not going to tell you all the authors.
Yeah,
It's
there's
Xu et
four,
al.
isn't there?
Yeah.
Four.
And that was in 2022. So it's a recent study.
This one was a long one.
Yeah. I'm kind of confused as to the design of the study. They don't say. It's
Oh, you're confused. I thought I was not getting it
I put
because
you see on the outline I put it in the wrong spot. So like under method, that quasi experimental causal compare that should be in design.
uh yeah. Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah, yeah. No, it's like, oh man, I was reading this one this morning when I was listening to it while I was walking my dog, and I was like, this goes on, and I don't know the game, and I found myself getting a little bit confused of what he was trying or what they were um, trying to prove at certain points.
So
I
I
got confused without books and then looking at posters.
so in the game is like a virtual world and it's first person.
Right.
And so
I see. I don't know the game. Can you explain the game to me?
yeah, okay, so it's called Crystal Island and you are like a medical investigator. I think they say
Right.
medical detective. And your job is like you go to an island and there was like a pandemic that was released, some virus was released on the island. And your job is
That
to
was my
figure,
guess
yeah, your
by the
job is to
time I got
figure
to the
out
end of
what
the
it
paper.
was.
Yeah, by the
And
time I got to the end of the paper, I was guessing like, okay, the Crystal Island, you must be trying to find like a pandemic or something on the
yeah,
island.
yeah.
But I didn't think they were very clear explaining what the game was. But then
Um,
it's not about the game. So I was
yeah, but
given,
also like even their design, they don't ever say what like. I mean, I'm taking a quantitative design class right now, or quantitative methods research class, and we are constantly told, and like everything we read, every single thing we read is always saying like you need to be specific on what you're doing, because then it allows other researchers to interpret and critique,
yeah,
and they're not. So like I don't know if their intention was quasi experimental, if it was causal comparative, or if it was like I looked this up online, a case control study. I've never heard of that before. I think it's like
mm,
comparing two groups between like a treatment thing, but I would say it's either causal comparative or case control. Because if I'm like when we get down to the results, I don't think they ever talked about like a cause. I think they talked about a
mm,
relationship, and if it's a relationship, it's not quasi experimental, because those are trying to find a cause. Whereas like causal comparative is trying to compare like the relationship between a group and the whatever the dependent variable is. So it's like group between variable. But it could also be a case control study. And again, I had to look that up. It was just like comparing two groups with a treatment. But I don't know if that's it. They never mention it, so I don't know.
Oh, I'm just happy that you seem to be a little bit confused with it too.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. I
Um,
mean, I'm confused for a different reason, but I was thinking the last two you sent me, I was like, oh, I read these. These papers aren't as hard as I thought they would be to
yeah,
read,
yeah,
and then this one, I'm just like, I'm confused.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe because it's a PDF and I had it in a reader thing that
Uh,
reads to me. It
yeah.
could have read it out of order, but I felt that it jumped a bit backwards and forwards in places.
I mean, I felt that way too.
Okay, good, because it could have been my reader. I'm not blaming
No,
that
there were
boy, but it could,
times, yeah, there were definitely times I was like, I feel like they should have put this down. Like, they should have explained all of the game at once instead of
maybe
like
because
breaking it up.
four authors, they just all wrote a section and they
They might have.
didn't check themselves.
They might have
Because
done
yeah,
that.
I thought that there was a part they kept saying that one point is like, oh yes, and these students knew to go talk to this person, and these students focused on reading the books, and these students did. And I, what the hell are you talking about? And then later on, it says like, oh, there's some books in the game, and if you go there, you can find some case study or something like, ah,
Do you have this study open right now?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Does it say where the author is from? Sometimes on the very first page, it'll have like an asterisk or something, or say which university.
It says Department of Applied for Psychology and Human Development, University of Toronto, Canada. And then the
Mm,
other one is Department of Curriculum, Teaching and Learning, University of Toronto, Canada. So it says Canada.
okay. The reason I
But
ask is because, and
the names don't look Canadian, do they?
well, they're probably like Chinese, because like Shu is definitely a Chinese person.
Yeah,
They're probably just
Shu.
like,
And then Anna Zedoric. Oh,
yeah.
I hope you're not listening or watching until I said your name. I can get my computer to say it for you. That will be hilarious.
Den Haasler, Anna Stravkovica, Matthew Morino, Elwood Ruffer.
That was loud.
Yeah. Yeah. What does it say? Like X for like shoe? Like what?
Oh,
But
hang on. You want me to do it again? Hang
yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
I'll just copy that one and control C.
Den Huazhu.
Genra Zhu.
Zhu. Yeah. Zhu.
That sounds like a Batman villain.
It does. It so does. The reason I
We have a
asked, oh, what?
You're talking about villains there just for a second. Just a side note is that we have a doctor. Our kindergarten has its own medical doctor.
Okay.
I think she's a nurse. Anyway,
Oh.
claims to be a doctor. Her name is Dr. Song, and it sounds to me like a Bond villain.
Yeah.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to bleed to death.
Yeah.
Go see Dr. Song. She's planning. Anyway, sorry, back to work.
I asked where they're from because I do know one of the issues in China, at least, like I've talked about this with other colleagues. You can purchase papers. So you can have like a ghostwriter. I don't know. The thing is if it happens here, it probably happens in other places as well. So if you
Yeah,
imagine if you have ghostwriters and I don't know.
it could be ghostwriters.
But
Could be
like you
AI
said,
written.
but it could also be they wrote it in sections.
That's when you just read the title just now and you said it was written by several authors. That was the moment I thought, oh, that might explain why it's so confused. But then they should have got together and said, is this coherent?
Sometimes though, I think when you have multiple researchers, it's like they work with the data, but not all of them write it. Not all of them write the report.
Uh, yeah, I didn't feel it was coherent. I felt that there was one part near the end. I think it was about the posters or something. And that seemed to explain, oh, now I understand that bit at the beginning when you were talking about the students know to look at the posters, because I was thinking, what posters are you talking about?
Yeah, so posters in the game.
Yeah, that section it said the game has these various posters around the blah 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 and something like that, and it's like, that would have been useful information earlier.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
participants, they had 61 students. They were mixed between like teenage and university. And so teenage was like grade 6 to 9. Universities, their average age was 21, but they had some like freshmen. I think they had some from all groups. Like I think they had second, third, and fourth years. Teenage students were mostly Caucasian. They were recruited from the southeast of Canada. The university students, they were a little more mixed. They had like 45%-ish were East Asian, 27 were Asian, Indians, and then 9% were Caucasian, 6.8 were Middle Eastern. and they were from a research-intensive university in Canada. Sometimes researchers, like, you're not supposed to say the location because it's for anonymity, like you're protecting people's identity by not giving locations, but sometimes they'll say things from a famous university in Canada or like from a famous university. It's like, okay, well.
There's only one of those.
Yeah, right. Multiple majors were represented. They had like life science, social science, statistics, computer science, and engineering as well. So I'm not 100% sure of the overall goal of what they were trying to do with, because they were comparing teenagers to university students, and the university students' majors kind of aligned with the game. So like, because the game is you're a medical detective using these engineering equipment to solve a puzzle, like to solve the problem.
Maybe they were trying to see whether university students' problem-solving skills were different from the other students. What was it, high school, do you say?
Yeah, like it was grades 6 through 9.
Grade 6 or 9. So,
Yeah.
you know, like to see whether the 6 to 9 year olds already had those problem-solving skills before they went to university, or they learned it somewhere. Maybe they're trying to work
But
that
then
out.
I would say like one of the possible limitations are like the university students might do better because they learn skills in their classes that they could use in the game, but are not necessarily related to emotional intelligence. You know, and they
The
sort
younger
of
kids
mention
just
that.
want to play, right?
Yeah, well, they sort of mention that, but they don't mention it the way I just said it. But like they kind of mention that later in the limitation
They
section.
probably used 27,000 words.
I think it's a causal comparative study. They didn't specify what it was, but based on the information I have in it, I think it's that. It doesn't seem like a correlational study, maybe causal
They asked
comparative.
them, the study, they had a total of 30 items they applied or something. You know, they had that scale.
Yeah, they had,
Points.
yeah.
That seemed a bit strange.
I skipped
But
that. I
I
didn't
thought
even
that
want
was
to
just
read
because
it.
I didn't know the game.
No, it was like different. It was different elements in the game they were looking for.
Yeah, again, it's very confusing, this one. I was really feeling I'm out of my league here. I don't understand what they're talking about.
Yeah, well, we can get into that. So, like, Crystal Island is a narrative-centered, intelligent video game. I think that I don't know what that means actually.
Is is this the game that was popular ages ago, which is like a zombie on an island? You're on a holiday
No,
resort.
that was a What is that game? I know what you're talking about. It's not that
It's very
game.
old now.
Yeah, it's like I think it got like awards and stuff because it was such a good game.
Yeah, everyone
And
was
it's like
playing it.
isn't it like a point and click game? Or no, am I thinking of something else?
I don't think it was point and click. Yeah, I think it was third person, and I only saw some people play it. I didn't have this game. Um, you kind of woke up in like a bedroom in like a hospital ward on an island. You're on holiday, and then there's a radio going. Is there anyone alive? And you had to try and make your way around. And there's like a zombie apocalypse that's happening.
Are you thinking of Dead
Dead Island?
Island?
Was it Dead Island?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the idea at the same time. Yeah. Ah,
I thought I think there's a thing called Skull Island. It's like a point and click game. I think it's Skull Island, but people really enjoyed
it's
it.
just like I was wondering whether this was Dead Island when I was listening to it, reading it today. And
Oh, I
I
mean that
don't see
makes
the
sense. It's like a
pictures.
virus pandemic thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's narrative centered, which means a lot of story, and it integrates role play, scientific exploration, and complex problem solving. And it was designed for microbiology and literacy education. That's what it was meant for. So it was meant to teach students like reading comprehension skills and then like microbiology. So in the game, you're a medical detective, and your goal is to figure out how the epidemic spread, like what happened, why is there a virus everywhere, and then you have to like collect data, generate hypotheses, and then figure out like diagnoses for it, and then have conclusions from that.
So there's no zombie attacks.
As far as I know, there are none.
So
maybe
this sounds like a
maybe
game
this
I
is the
would like.
prequel. This is the prequel before Dead Island.
It sounds like a game I would like, actually. I like this sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying, there's a group of YouTubers I like, and they play Phasmophobia.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people just like playing it because it's scary. But what I like watching these guys play is watching them try and work out what the ghost is with like
Yeah.
very little evidence, you know.
Yeah.
They play on like one of the higher levels, so you don't get a lot of
Like
clues.
Nightmare.
They play above that. They play on Insanity,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
where you only get one evidence. And
Yeah.
then they also do the no evidence runs, and they have to work it out through the clues.
Hmm.
And I love watching them go, well, this was a fast go.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
this was a slow ghost, so that eliminates those ones. I love that deduction.
Mm,
Anyway, sorry.
yeah.
That's what this game sounds a bit like.
So for the, I guess they collected data in two ways, the researchers. So they did a questionnaire, and it was called the Motivation Strategies for Learning Questionnaire.
Mm-hmm.
And that was used to measure students' motivation and attitudes toward learning microbiology with Crystal Island. So that's a self-report survey. And then they also used computer log trace data, which is where the computer would like log when they would do certain things. So it would capture like action type, and then the content, and then like the time of the interaction while the user was interacting with it. For example, like they looked at the poster and they did it for 2 minutes, or like they, like it's logging. But, I don't think there's no like eye tracking. So like imagine if you open up a poster, or you have your character facing a poster, and then you turn away to look at your phone and play on it first. I mean, I'm sure they didn't do this, but I'm just saying if they did, the computer log trace data wouldn't show that.
Yeah, no, because a computer would only know when you can set it to say that has been opened, well, it has been closed,
Yeah.
and you can calculate the time between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so and I'm also wondering, like maybe like the university students, they may have played this before, like there's a difference between playing it before and not playing it.
Possible. That's possible, I guess. But I
Because if
also,
you played it before, you might know which posters to look at to get the rough gist. And also university students would know how
if
to look for gist
I
as
would
well,
say though, if you played it before, there's a chance you might not need to look at the posters, because one of the results they found was that reading tasks didn't actually, like, it wasn't necessary to win the game. You didn't need to be able to read. What you needed was like high self-efficacy. So like your ability to like trust your own skills, and to like know where to find knowledge or where to find information, or like to deduce things, just like you said in Phasmophobia. Like they don't use the tools, they deduce based on certain things. So
Yeah.
some students
But
could
that
do
takes
that.
hours of play though, because they had to learn that these ghosts do that. But
Yeah, but this is also why I wonder, because I think it was the university students that did that. I mean, they don't specify, but it's probably
no, they
more
don't.
likely. It's probably more likely that it was university students who did that. And like their majors are related to the game. Like a life science major is related to that kind of game.
I think it
Like,
was like in our last episode, maybe, I don't know whether it's in the published version, but you were mentioning like sometimes you can write these papers to imply what you want to say, even though you're trying to be neutral. I think it was something like that. So that maybe they're
oh,
like they're ignoring saying, "Oh, it was the university students," because they want to say, "Well, actually, it was the students."
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like they're trying to write it to make their point clear.
Yeah, that's
I don't
true.
know. It's just, I'm
Yeah,
sure they're trying to be honest. They probably believe
that's
their
true.
their their results, but like sometimes your own biases get in the way, don't they?
Yeah. For the computer log trace data, the reason why this is useful is because if I say, for example, on the survey, if I say like, oh, I really liked this and it helped me do this kind of thing. But then like we look at the computer log and see like, well, you didn't actually do that for very long, or you didn't do it at all. So then we're trying to triangulate, like we're trying to compare your behavior with what you say. And if they match, then we can say, well, that's probably true then. Just like if I said like I'm not quick to anger, and then like I yell at people all the time. Like, well,
Well, that's your low emotional intelligence.
so the results for reading comprehension activities were engaging, because students could work toward a goal, monitor their progress, and evaluate their learning progress. And then successful problem solvers spent more time viewing posters and talking to in-game characters than non-successful problem solvers,
You
which
have
means
to
like,
imagine how confused I was when it's like, what
yeah.
posters are you guys talking about?
So
What are you
me,
talking about?
yeah. So
And then
like,
later they said there was posters in the game. I thought there were posters in the room that they were being
yeah,
studied
yeah,
on. And there were clues around the room that they could look at. And it's like,
yeah.
you know.
Basically say like students that engage in these type of help-seeking behaviors, because reading the posters they were like giving you tips on how to do stuff or helping you understand certain content. Students with high self-efficacy spent less time interacting with reading comprehension tasks, which is those students who have high self-efficacy, which self-efficacy is like your belief on your ability to do something. It's sort of like confidence, I guess, but it's just like your belief in your ability to do something. Because they're thinking, I can do this without reading, they would therefore go do it, and they would be successful in it.
Sounds like you.
Yeah. Well, that it suggests that like self-regulation skills and
Also could
having
have played the game before.
yeah, right, or having like better knowledge, which again, this is why I think they mean that university students helps you win the game. Like knowing what you need to do to win makes you more likely to win.
Yeah.
So, which is ironic because the game was designed to be literacy education based, and so like you don't even need to read to win it. It's like, is it well designed? I don't know.
Again, these games are built for the general public to play and have fun, aren't they? They're
Hmm.
not necessarily built as educational games. We're just
This
using
one
them.
might have been.
This one might have been.
Might have
Oh,
been because
okay.
I know they said it was for microbiology and literacy education, which sounds like it was designed specifically for that. Like maybe it was designed to teach kids how to like to make like science more fun and like
Have
also
you
work.
played this?
No,
So then that could be like, so then it would be more adapted for the university students, as you say.
I would think so, but I suppose you could probably
9-year-olds
use it
probably
in high
don't
school.
understand it,
Well, yeah. I mean, you could,
especially if it's a lot of technical, scientific, medical words.
yeah. I feel like if it's designed for literacy, it probably isn't super complicated, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm assuming
Again,
these are native English speakers there in Canada, you know? But although they do have East, like when they say the races or the ethnicities, they never say they're foreign students. So
no.
my guess is they're all Canadian.
Yeah, so they're reading in their native language.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe the language isn't too hard. I do, but it poses that question that that's not explained in the data, is it,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
no,
paper?
yeah. So that and they also mentioned that too, like their data is limited, right? Like there's a lot of factors
Yeah,
that they
it's
didn't
a
look
lot.
at. But a high level of prior knowledge may have also given students confidence in their own ability, and that would show up in their performance. Right. So like if you have background knowledge that you're like, hey, I know that, like obviously you're gonna feel confident in being able to perform the task because you already
Yeah,
have
because it
knowledge of
doesn't
it.
say what university students, does it? Because maybe they're familiar with this topic.
Yeah. I just
You know,
know that
like
they're
medical
majors.
students.
Yeah, like they talk about like different types of sciences, right? Like you have
Yeah.
life science, they have like engineering, just different kind of, where is it? Here,
Okay.
life science, social science, statistics. Social science and statistics probably, maybe statistics would be useful, I don't know. But like
Maybe.
life science for sure is probably related.
Yeah.
Biology, like, you know, some organic chemistry, something like that. Um, Students with strong prior knowledge and self-regulating skills were more likely to perform optimally and solve problems. Which, to be honest, makes sense because all the research I've ever read on self-regulated skills or self-efficacy have shown, like time and time again, that like having it's what they call having grit, like being able to push through a hard situation and use what you know to do it. You're more likely to succeed. That's why
I
like
read
having
I
like
read the book Grit.
yeah, like having like high intelligence or like you're really good, like you get good grades, not a good indicator of success.
No.
A good indicator is like, can you push through something challenging? Because if you can, then
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, you're more likely to succeed. If you like a lot of students who have high intelligence and they do things really well and they're always told, wow, you're so smart. When they get to a thing they don't understand, a lot of times they'll give up very quickly.
Yeah. It's out of their comfort zone.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it's like seeing a bodybuilder. Wow, you must be so strong. Run that race. And they can't run a marathon because they
Yeah,
don't have the stamina to do that.
yeah, yeah.
They're just too quick.
I was gonna say, even like bodybuilders. Have you ever seen people who do like calisthenics?
Calisthenics, is that like the gymnast, not gymnastic, but that's
Yeah, like you use your
the
body weight to do things.
that's the body weight training.
They
Okay,
don't
cool.
look as big because the thing
Yeah.
is, not always, but people who lift weights, if they want to get big, they're trying to get hypertrophy, where they're like making their muscles swell.
Yeah, yeah, they're focusing on that area.
Yeah, but then like the muscles around it are not as developed. And so like I've seen there was a guy who did calisthenics and he can like lift himself up sideways or
Mm.
like
Yeah, on the one arm.
yeah, or like do the
Yeah, I've seen
stair
that.
thing in the air, you know? And he
Yeah.
had a bodybuilder friend who looks jacked, like he looks
Hmm.
ripped. He can't do it. I mean, he can do
Mm.
better than a regular person, but he can't do it. And the
Mm.
calisthenics guy was telling him it's because your muscles aren't developed. You develop this specific area, not the area around it. So you have no
Yeah,
support.
yeah, they don't. It doesn't work on the core or whatever it is. I think,
Yeah.
as I've heard. Yeah, yeah. It's like the bodybuilders. They focus on getting it nice and short and fat, the
Mhm.
muscles.
Mhm.
So they look. good.
Hmm.
But then when you're like athletes, they need that long, lean muscles.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if you look at runners, they don't look like bodybuilders. You
No.
look at swimmers, they don't look like
Yeah.
runners. The speed walkers look like ducks. No, not true.
So issues and limitations, we said it already, they only examined a few indicators, right? And then like the way they estimate student engagement, it was time, but there's no scientific consensus on whether or not that's a good indicator of engagement. You know, like if you say like, well, they spent this much time looking at it, that doesn't mean the entire time they were looking at it, they were actually thinking about it.
No, they could probably think, what am I having for dinner?
Yeah, you know, or like maybe they
You don't know.
just
It's
don't.
like sometimes when you read something, your brain goes off.
Yeah, have you ever had it where you're reading and your
Yeah.
eyes keep moving and you like it's like you know you're reading, you'll turn the page and everything, but you're not actually reading it. Another limitation is sample size. The sample size was not super large, and then also they had a lot of age variation in the sample.
Hmm.
You know, because it was like
Yeah,
multiple
9 in
age groups.
university.
Yeah, like 6 to 9. So you have a long range, and then like university, there was a range within that as well.
I wonder whether a 6-year-old would be interested in this game.
Oh, it's grades 6 to 9. So like a
Oh,
sixth
grade
grader,
6.
yeah, and then a ninth grader, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
But even then, though, like sixth grade, what are you like 12?
Are you really interested in scientific study at 12?
I don't know. Yeah, that's the
You
thing. Like
probably were.
well, yeah. But like,
And I probably was. Okay, so there's some weird kids out there.
yeah.
But
But that's the thing too. Is like, what was the incentive for them to do it? Because maybe they did it for a class. I don't know. They didn't say.
or a chocolate bar.
Or a chocolate bar, like pirate, right? Like booty in the class. Like you just got to find the chocolate coin and it's yours. Yeah. Okay, study 2.
You gotta keep that in now.
Yeah, study 2.
You can't edit the pirate bit out.
Yeah, it's called Academic and Social Emotional Learning in High School Esports by Retman et al. 2020. The design of the study was a little bit more. I guess it was easier to understand, but they didn't explicitly say what it was either. But they
I
did.
know it's not the point, but I felt that the formatting of the paper was clearer. The
Yes.
layout,
Yeah.
the whole paper was so much clearer than the previous one.
Yeah, it was a lot clearer.
Yeah.
Like that.
So
That's why I was, even though they didn't specifically say what they did as a study design, it was easy to kind of see because they explained it well. So the design of the study was they quantified qualitative data. Essentially, they did like semi-structured interviews and they did focus groups, which is like a qualitative type of method. But they also quantified the data, which means like they almost like they did a content analysis. The participants, they had 6 local school sites. So I think they went to those sites while they were doing the esports like league tournaments or something. They had 55 students that participated in 5 focus groups and 10 GMs or like general managers that participated in 5 GM focus groups. Actually, I think it was 6 GM focus groups. I think I have that number wrong. They did semi-structured interviews in person or online via private Discord server. And the topics of the interviews were like their students or attitudes toward the league. I assume like the league of like competition thing. Changes to gameplay and teammanship, impact on schoolwork, attitudes toward school, attitudes toward relationships, and then like what was learned from participating in the league.
Yeah, it's so clear what they were trying to look at.
And
isn't it?
they aligned this with, I can't remember what they called it. It was like a certain type of, they mix like science, math, and English education together. They have like 3 circles like kind of diagram there.
Yeah, that's the bit I wasn't quite sure I understood.
So I think those like requirements are from a specific type of curriculum. So they were trying to match to see if the things they did in the game aligned with the curriculum.
I see.
That's what they're trying to do. The results kind of broke it up into sections. So you had like science and math, social emotional learning, equity, and mentorship and student leadership. So for science and math, they found that mathematizing esports naturally aligned with competitive play. And it provided a context for quantitative and analytical thinking. So like in League of Legends, for example, at the end of a game, you can look at graphs and they show the metrics of your scores, like how much damage you did, how much healing you did, how much like vision you had, and like you have different things you can look at, and you can
Yeah, the
use
stat
that.
pages, right?
Yeah, and you
Like in Grand Theft Auto, everyone loves looking to see how many people they run over.
yeah, right. But then
And
it's like
even in Minecraft, who got killed by a pig?
yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah. But like those kind of things, like they kind of naturally lend themselves to being used in like math.
Yeah. I found reading this when I was there was a part that's I don't know what it was actually saying, but it was talking about the math section.
Hmm.
And I found that, oh yes, games is a great way to make math real. You
Hmm.
know, like I don't know about when you were at school, but when I was at school, they would tell you something and they give you a fake scenario that's not realistic, and you're just like, when am I ever gonna use this?
Hmm.
You know? But at least with the games, you can actually put this into context, into
Yeah.
actual real life situations.
Hmm.
You know, maybe going back to that Crystal Island thing, that they're probably using math in that. Like like so much of this liquid with so much of that liquid can make the antidote. And
Yeah.
so it actually shows you that you can, you know, putting the math into real life situations probably is,
Hmm.
yeah, I think that's an advantage to gaming.
Yeah. And then, so, and the thing, like, they analyze their own performance, their team's
Hmm.
performance, or their performance of their opponents, too.
Hmm.
Which, kind of, they said that basically it helped with, like, certain forms of scientific reasoning. So, like,
Mm.
scientific inquiry. But, like, it didn't necessarily help with scientific explanations for things. And I kind of wonder if students would like, because I'm a gamer, I play League of Legends, and like I don't have a scientific explanation for things, but I might still have a type of explanation based on my science, my inquiry. Like I might
Mm.
ask questions and say, "Oh, this probably happened because of this," but I'm not like doing difficult math. But the thing is you could if it were designed in a curriculum.
Yeah.
Like at my old school, we had students in a gym class, so I think it was like middle schoolers, so they take both gym and they take it was like I think it was a math class or something, and they had to use, it was like physics, but it's not like super complicated physics, but to me it's complicated because I don't understand physics, but they had to use physics to try to figure out a way to optimize their swim speed.
Wow.
And I thought that was, and they actually did it, and then they tested it, they timed it, and they actually did better, they got a faster swim speed. And the whole goal of that with our school was to like do interdisciplinary type of learning, but then they're like, that's not interdisciplinary enough, and we're like, okay. So then they're like, now we have them, they dance.
Never enough for them, is it? Never enough.
But then they did like music and gym together, and they would just dance. I'm like, I feel like the math one was more like, that was a much better learning experience than like learning to dance to a song.
Mm.
I don't know. They're like, well, now they have like tempo. Okay. I don't know. Like, seems silly.
I often feel that with some of the classes that we teach here, and you're just like, what's the point of that lesson? And then, because I'm not the teacher of every class,
Mhm.
we're with the students all day. So when they have other classes, I'm the assistant. I'm there helping them focus and stuff.
Mhm.
And sometimes they have like a music class, and you think, what's the point of that? Just yourself, not the kid. And then you think, well, it's probably just to have a good time. But then I think it is teaching them rhythm. You know, Rhythm isn't always natural for people, and to actually learn how to flow things, get the patterns going. It's pattern recognition and sound. So
But do they do that?
yeah, we do.
What?
We have some drums. They tap and they have singing. And they have dancing classes
But
and
what I mean is like, do they actually teach rhythm or do they just play music?
no, they teach them how to tap in time.
Oh, okay.
They're
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
literally
yeah,
teaching rhythm.
yeah.
They had a chart with some numbers on
Mm-hmm.
it. I was doing it down here, but I realized up here's better. They had
Mm-hmm.
like this a square piece of paper, and it had numbers on it. I think it had 1 to 8,
Yeah, I
and
think
like,
those
but they're in a
numbers are supposed to be the notes, I think.
yeah, but there's only 7. In a key, right?
Well, it's like an octave, I think.
Okay, maybe. Anyway, so they had the 1 to 8. Maybe he's just keeping it. And they had a cup, and they had like on the table, and then the teacher was playing a rhythm, dum dum dum. On the he had a guitar because he's a guitarist, so he's playing a rhythm, dum dum dum, just one chord, and then he would call out a number, 4, 8, 2, one, and the kids have to go tuh, 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 follow him with the rhythm. And then they get another kid up and the other kid would say the pattern, a random pattern. They all go one, 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 one. I can't. Robots.
Hello, my name is
Zero,
that. Yeah.
zero, zero, one, 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 zero, zero.
That's
But
funny.
yeah, but they were teaching the rhythm and so forth like that. And then they teach them with clapping and drums and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like so many weeks they're just teaching them to bang in time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
But yeah, no, this study was good for making me think like, oh, there are so many other ways you could actually make games that make math feel real to some people, and
Yeah.
you could do it with science as well. And we're language teachers, so we always look at the English language, how to use language with it. But there is, like the math thing is interesting to me. I'm watching the teachers teach math here, and they're teaching it the Chinese way, and there's so many different patterns that they have to memorize, and it's just like, oh, I don't understand what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, like also, so they said like the students might not have developed scientific explanations, but they
Hmm.
did use evidence to support their claims, which
Mm.
is already something
And so
you
they,
want to do in science anyway.
yeah, so they're kind of doing it, but they're but they're not doing it in a scientific way, but they're doing it like a base science level,
Yeah, yeah.
early science,
And then
foundational.
communication skills were improved both in and out of the game. So one of the general manager's comments was they're becoming more thoughtful in what they're saying and what they need to say and what they need not to say.
Yeah, that was really cool in this paper to have actual comments from some of the people. There was one I read that's like, oh, they're not my students, but they're not my language students, but I noticed that their language improved, the way they communicate with each other.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
For social emotional learning, the game League of Legends helped in self-awareness and self-management. And one of the students mentioned about how they get tilted easily. Remember, I told you last
Yes, I
time about
read
tilted?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
So the game, like when playing with friends, they were able to kind of learn when they were tilted and then how to manage that, how to
Yep.
manage not being angry or what to do about it and to talk about it. And even in myself, like I play with my friends and my American friends. And one time we were playing. There's 5 of us, and that's a full team. And so like after each game, we will watch the games and we will talk about what happened. And he was kind of learning a new role in the game, so of course he's gonna make mistakes, because it's new to him. And so everyone's giving him like constructive feedback, and to him he's just hearing negative, negative, negative. And he kind of at first got really upset, like, well, I'm so sorry that I suck and I'll never do it again, and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, you're doing pretty well for somebody who's never done it before. I just want you to know that because I know you're hearing all negatives, but you're doing really well for your first time doing a role you've never done.
Yeah,
And then like after
probably
that,
needed that.
yeah, and even after he's like, yeah, I'm sorry I got upset. It's just like hearing all the negative stuff makes me feel bad. I'm like, yeah, we don't want you to feel bad. We're just trying to help you, like,
Mhm.
yeah.
But that's true though, isn't it? And like you try something new, and when you first do it, you are going to be terrible. You
Mm-hmm.
know that, but
Mm-hmm.
then hearing everyone else tell you, it's just like, oh man.
Yeah. 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 And I'd say like even with me, like they give me feedback all the time, and I very rarely feel bad about it because I know their intention behind it, and like we're friends, we do this together. But like
Mhm.
if they say maybe I disagree with something they say, I'll say like, well, I don't agree with it because of this. But we don't like fight with each other. We don't like we don't, I don't know. And I think that's through learning how to communicate with this type of game.
And I think we covered on that a little bit in the last episode we did, where, like it builds social skills.
Mm-hmm.
Like these people are learning how to interact with other humans,
Yeah.
you know? And I think when they realize that the other players are other humans as well, and then they start to realize, oh, it is a team building thing. This paper made me feel a little bit like for us non-sporty people, like I don't, I'm assuming you're not a sporty
I'm not
person,
a
you know,
sporty
like,
person.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't want to jump to any conclusions, but I didn't feel that you were.
Yeah.
Um, But like when I was at school, because I'm not interested in sports or any of those athletic things, that you're kind of an outcast
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have a group, the book club. But
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's not the same. But this you're getting you're getting that football culture. Like you're getting
Mm-hmm.
that sports
Yeah.
camaraderie. You're
Yeah.
getting the group of people. There's a team. You're getting a team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and people are. I think that's good for the emotional intelligence as well because you're starting to feel a part of something, and then you
Yeah.
start thinking about, oh, actually, I let the team down this time. How can I make it better next time?
Mm-hmm.
So this esports time, I think, is good for us non-athletic people. You know.
Yeah. And like I was just thinking this too, like a lot of I mean, because League of Legends, if you ask people who play League of Legends, a lot of people say the community is really bad. And I'd say
Interesting.
in some ways it is. Like people are, we say, like toxic, right? Whereas like
Hmm.
if you're playing though with a team and you know each other and you're actually like almost as if you're a sports team, it's a different
Hmm.
feeling. It's definitely a different vibe. And like you said, like, now you belong to a part of a group where
You
like
belong to a
before,
group.
yeah, before
It's
you might
you
have been an
and
outcast.
you and your team against the world.
Yeah.
In books or in like early TV, it was always a group of like four people, dungeon hunters going off somewhere to do something.
Mm,
And now, literally, you and three other friends can do it.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like a lot of these social games, like Phasmophobia, it is four players.
Hmm.
So it's groups of four, groups of you going off. It's kind of nice. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a big group. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a small group.
I do like that because I feel like for a long time everything's just single player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that they're making more like multiplayer games. Another area they looked at was like equity. And again, I know in America this is a huge thing. We talk about like everything has to be like equitable and like fair and equal. But one of the things they found was students from lower income schools showed greater gains.
Mhm.
Again, this is not an experiment. So they're just looking at like they're just observing is all they're doing.
No, observation, isn't it?
Um, But this is contrary to previous research. So previous research would say like students from lower income schools would have lower gains and students from higher income schools would have higher gains. And so this is inferring that economic inequalities do not interfere with interest-driven learning. So if you give students the opportunity, that's the thing. It's like if you have a poor student and a rich student, but they have similar opportunities and you encourage them both, and they're both interested in it, they're both likely to do well. And the reason why the lower income or lower socioeconomic status student has more gains is probably because their baseline is lower, you know.
Mm.
But it's not like they necessarily surpass the higher income person, or just like it's not like the higher income person got more out of the experience than they would have. It's just that they might be getting the baselines are different, which is maybe why one is like higher or lower than the other. But it's interesting to think about because for a lot of, at least in America, a lot of researchers like I just saw a video the other day about like 50% of black people won't get hired at jobs because they're black, and but like maybe that's true in some places, but where are you getting the information from? You know,
Mm.
just like it's like, well, if you're poor, you won't succeed in life. That's like saying if you get a college education, you will succeed, and that's not true. If you're poor,
Yeah.
it might be harder to succeed. I'll give you that, right? Like you have less opportunities when you're poor, yes, but that doesn't
But a
mean you
lot of
cannot succeed.
but a lot of those famous rich billionaires and that they always start off saying, "Well, I had nothing, and now I
Hmm.
have everything."
Like Donald Trump.
You
I
know,
just had a small loan of $1 million from my father.
I wasn't thinking of him.
But yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, like Bill
so
Gates. Like, what was he when
yeah,
he started out?
yeah,
He was a college dropout.
yeah. What was the Amazon guy? Was it Jeff
Jeff
Bezos? And he
Bezos,
had
yeah.
nothing when he was young. I think he had nothing.
I don't know. But yeah, like success, money does not determine success. It obviously can be helpful
Mm.
and it can also be an obstacle, but it doesn't make, if you have money, it doesn't guarantee success. Just like if you don't have money, it doesn't guarantee no success. It just means you have more work to do, right? But like
Yeah,
everyone loves an underdog story anyway.
they do. I found here with when we have rich, super rich parents, more money than sense, that you have that you have What? Do you like that one?
It's funny because like more money than sense also sounds like cent, like one
A
cent, two.
sense. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah,
American sense.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's kind of funny.
yeah. Um, okay, cool. I get that now.
Yeah.
But I found here that we have, talk only of rich kids, but here there's two types of those students. You have the ones who try really hard and they're really smart.
Hmm.
They study, they try, they're kind, they probably have a very strong emotional intelligence,
Hmm.
very high because they care about what they do, they
Yeah.
worry about their thing. But they're usually from a loving, rich family. And then
Hmm.
you have the other type, which is this, I don't care. My dad is rich.
Hmm.
You know, a friend of mine, she said she quit doing a private class because the kid was playing with scissors in class and he was cutting his trousers and he was trying to stab everything. And she said, "Hey, if you stab my laptop, I'll get your dad to buy you another one." She said, "My dad's rich, he can buy you two."
Mm.
Yeah, they just don't care.
Yeah. It's also
Is
kind of
that
like poor. Well, I think a lot of times too, emotional intelligence can be passed down. And what I mean is like, because
it's probably a learned skill.
yeah, that's what I
Actually, you
mean.
learn it
So
from
when I
your
say pass,
environment.
yeah, so if your parents are emotionally intelligent and they're involved in your life, there's a good chance you're
Yep.
going to be learning it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's not like it's not like a physical thing, like a physical deformity, like
Mm.
if you have a lower emotional intelligence, I think you can learn to grow. You can hire it.
Yeah.
You can, not sure of the terminology there, but yeah,
They
you
do
can
have research
definitely.
on that. But I think a lot of times too, it's usually involved with like adults. So they're past like puberty, they're past those things. And so like that type of emotional training can be helpful, but I think over time, if they don't keep doing it, it kind of they revert back.
Yeah.
Whereas like I feel like kids are just easier because they're not. It's like this. It's not set in stone yet, so to say. Like
Well,
I think
everything is
everyone.
wonderful.
Well, yeah, but I think everyone has the potential to change. But it's just like once you reach a certain age, it's like you almost don't want to change at that point.
Yeah, it feels like I was thinking this today when my wife and I were talking about we were doing shapes with our hands, like make a triangle,
Mm.
do a square like this, and like if you show the kids how to do this square, like let's try and get my angle right, but
Mm.
show the kids how to do a square. They seem to bend their fingers in a direction that I can't do because their bones are still
Oh
soft,
yeah, 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 yeah,
and their fingers literally sort of like bend backward. I
yeah,
can't do it like
yeah,
that
yeah,
way
yeah,
on
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I was and you just saying this is like, well, when you work with children, they're still was it
Yeah,
malleable, yeah,
malleable. Yeah.
and so their brains are the same as the bones, and so they're not set yet.
Hmm.
But I do think when it comes to brain stuff, most of the things, you're the psychology student, I'm not, but I do feel like if you have an awareness, you can grow beyond it. Like
Yeah. I,
if you're aware that there's something different and you can change it, then you can.
yeah. So that's kind of like same thing with adults. Like if an adult goes to therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy, to maybe they like let's say they have narcissistic personality disorder and they're working on it.
Hmm.
I've read and I've watched a lot of like videos from psychologists. Like there was a woman, Dr. Ramani, who
Hmm.
that's like she specializes in this. She's been doing it for 20 years. And she said like most narcissists do not change. Like they might get better in some ways, but it never truly goes away. And I think the difference with children, I don't, and again, I don't know why this is the case, but it just feels like children they're a little easier to kind of move between like certain types of personality tendencies or even traits. Because it's
Hmm.
like, it's almost like they're not accustomed. It's like they don't identify with it yet, I think is a good
Well,
way to
they're
say it.
soaking in everything.
Yeah.
They're soaking it. They're trying to look, who am I?
And I think
And
for adults, we already have an identity.
we have an identity.
And if that's like a core part to who we are, it's very difficult to change.
Mm. But
If
I think I feel that if there's an awareness, you're willing to change and you know that there's
yeah,
ability to change. If you, I like your narcissist people, like maybe if they go to therapy because they're told to go, then I don't think it will work.
yeah. That's part of the problem too, because people who actually are narcissistic do not think they have a problem. And it's like
Exactly.
it's so close to impossible to convince them they have one.
And I guess that's the same with alcoholism as well, like
Yeah.
these people that that suffer with that, until they realize, oh, actually, I do have a problem here.
Hmm.
It's the moment it clicks in the brain, I need to fix this. That's when it will work.
Yeah, yeah. I think humans have that's one of the things I think that makes humans so great is that we have this potential to be aware of our behavior and alter it. Like you said, like if you actually want to change, you have the power to do so.
Yeah.
Whereas like animals, like is my dog aware of the things he does? Probably not very much. Like maybe a little bit, but probably not to the level that we can be.
I like animals because they're honest with you. If he bites you, he bit you for a reason.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you might not agree with that reason, but he had a reason. You know,
Also, after equity, they had mentorship and student leadership, and they found that teacher general managers played a key role in modeling behavior and fostering environments for students to focus on improving social skills and analytical skills. That was also true for peer mentors. So basically, having a mentor of some sort was helpful for them, which also kind of makes me think of like in learning in general, having some type of a mentor, almost like a master and apprenticeship type of relationship, they usually do much better.
yeah. I think mentoring it works everywhere,
Hmm.
actually. Yeah. Like even if it's not a real mentor, like even if the another person doesn't know, you have someone you look up to.
Hmm.
I like trying to learn programming, but there's like an author I like, and I'm trying to think, oh, how would he do it? So it's
Yeah.
as a mentor, in that respect.
I love that too because like one of my students said that to me and it made me so happy because he said sometimes when he like encounters a situation he's never seen before, the first thing he thinks of is what would Seth do? Like
Mm.
how people say like what would Jesus do, like WWJD,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
WWSD,
Have,
like what would Seth
have,
do?
have you heard the Axis of Awesome song? What would Jesus do?
No.
I'll send you a link later.
Yeah, yeah.
You might. I think it's to your humor.
Okay. It's
It's
like
a comedy, so.
okay, yeah, I like that kind of stuff. So the issues or limitations with this is that it's qualitative data. Now that's not a bad thing, but what I'm saying is it does not show cause. But what it's doing is it's attempting to explain a phenomenon. It's attempting to observe and you're just making observations on what they see.
This whole paper feels like they're not even trying to convince you of anything. They're just saying, this is what we saw.
Yeah. They did quantify the data, and that can be kind of helpful. For example, if they keep saying the same thing over and over again and other people are saying the same thing, it's probably pretty accurate. And so that's kind of thing. So like it gives insight into the inner workings of students' social, emotional learning and emotional intelligence. But it was done
Mm.
through quantifying their own opinion, which is self-reported data, right? Like they're quantifying someone's opinion. So it's still self-reported data, which could be biased. It might not be, but it could be. And then conclusions from those two studies, basically pretty simple. Like social emotional learning is best developed in a community with mentors and people who can foster that kind of environment. And then video games can provide that environment, but like you're gonna want to have something like a mentor. You could kind of have a mentor in a game, I guess, but like that'd be weird.
Yeah, but especially if the game is the one that's, you know, like we talked about betrayal earlier. So
Yeah,
if
or Grand
you
Theft
don't want,
Auto.
yeah, grandfather, you don't want that as your mentor, do you?
Yeah, no. But you're right. Like if especially if like young children are playing, like you're not supposed to, but I know some children do play Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, because it's a cool driving simulator.
Yeah, it
Just
is.
city life simulator.
Yeah, but then like you can do other things, and so it's like they might look up to that kind of character.
Mm.
Just like if you have a TV show or movie with a character and you look up to them, you're gonna try to emulate their behavior.
We're going back to that Ultraman kid again.
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah.
They love it. Yeah, yeah. I think here also, like, if we're just basing it on for emotional intelligence, which is the point of our session,
Hmm.
um, that you could even have a parent going through a game with you, even if it's one of those, like those two-player games. Oh, there's a game where the parents break up and the
Yeah,
kids turn into doll.
yeah, Luke was playing that today. What?
Yeah, you know that one.
Yeah, what's it
So
called?
even that would be cool for parents to go through it with the kid, or like
Yeah,
just to play those
yeah,
type of games, um, because that way the kid can experience the emotions with the parent, and the parent obviously has a higher level here, in theory,
yeah,
hopefully,
yeah.
and they can
Hopefully,
be
yeah.
coaching, they can be coaching their child through the moments that they see in the game,
Hmm.
you know. I still feel like every one of these discussions we have, if you could change it to a different time frame and say about a movie, oh, well, movies come out and we could watch this with the parents and movies
Yeah,
can do this.
yeah, yeah.
Or go back even further, like, oh, there's books about this. We could
Mm.
do this with books, you know.
Montessori, 1952.
Yeah. 19, I think it's 52. I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I don't know either. Back into the defending the Montessori here.
Mm.
I don't know if that's the full story or whether that's just our leaders' only understanding.
Ah, that's true. Yeah,
You know,
that could be the case too. But I was gonna say like tip wise, like you said, that's a good tip where it's like parents can do games together and they can function as a peer, or even
yeah,
if you have like an older brother or sister,
an older brother or sister.
yeah, a
Yeah,
cousin.
because they've been through it in
Hmm.
theory.
In theory, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then obviously like you want to have games. If it's for younger children, you obviously want to have like kid-friendly games. Like Grand Theft Auto
Obviously.
is not a kid-friendly game. Fun game, not a kid-friendly game.
Yeah.
But for adults too, like I keep thinking again, Baldur's Gate 3, love this game. But I have friends that like one of my students really wants to practice English. We play that game together, and I let him take time to he wants to do it in all English, and I said that's gonna be challenging, but like you can do that if you want. And so like in a dialogue, I'll actually be doing other things because like he needs to take his time to read everything
Yeah.
and I let him do that, But it's like that's me kind of functioning as a mentor for him. And when he asks a question, he'll be like, "What does this mean?"
Yeah.
Hmm.
But it was his choice. He wants to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't force
Baldur's
it on him. Hmm.
Baldur's Gate 3. Is it written by Drew Capenshaw?
I don't know. It's made
Because
by Larian Studios. That's all I know. That.
he wrote the Star Wars game I like, and there's a lot of similarities between that and when you talk about Baldur's Gate 3, they
Mm.
sound very similar. I know he wrote the original Baldur's Gate.
Oh, maybe I don't know if he had anything to do with it. I'm not
I'm
sure.
gonna have to look it up now.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna type while we're talking because my keyboard makes lovely
You should
noises.
play Baldur's Gate 3. It's such a fun game. I have over 300 hours in the game and I still haven't beaten it yet. I'm getting
So you
close.
haven't completed your study.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I'm getting close, but it's just like I love like trying different characters, different builds, different, styles, like just doing everything I can in the game.
Also, I'm afraid that I'm gonna be addicted to it.
You might, yeah, like like so we're on vacation, right? The other day I played for probably 12 to 15 hours that day. I mean, not all at once, but like I would play for a few hours, like 5 hours, stop for an hour, go back for 5 hours. Like,
uh,
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you again for joining us and hope to see you next time. Yeah.